Welcome, everybody. I think we're going to get started. We've got a full hour of entertainment for you. So without further ado, I'm very pleased to welcome you to the Supporting the Woman, Supporting the Mother Study webinar and website launch. I'm Susan Collings, and I'm from the Research Centre for Children and Families at the University of Sydney. And I wanted to gratefully recognise that this project was funded by the National Disability Research Partnership, and we are very, very thankful for the support.
Hi, I'm Amy. I'm a direct person and I'm now living in Port Pirie, South Australia, on the Ngukurr land. I wish to acknowledge the traditional owners of this land where I live and raise my family. Also, I want to acknowledge traditional elders past and present and emerging. I'd like to acknowledge the IDRS program that has supported me with keeping my child at home. I'd also like to acknowledge the University of Sydney with all the advisory groups that they have done. Thank you.
I just wanted to second Amy's lovely acknowledgement, and to say we are also coming here today from Darug land and to acknowledge traditional owners past, present and emerging, especially and pay on NAIDOC Week, and pay warm respects to those who are celebrating NAIDOC Week. And I'm joined here by 5 of our co-researchers, Amy being the 6th. So yeah, we're going to get started now and tell you about our studies. Here's the team of co-researchers that we worked with. First of all, I'll tell you a little bit about the study, and you'll get to hear from 2 of our co-researchers, and also get to hear some videos, so watch some videos. We'll talk about the expert reference group, and you'll hear from and get to meet a member of the expert advisory group. We'll launch our website, we're very proud today, and the resources within it for workers and for parents, and we'll have a Q&A at the end. First of all, just to acknowledge that I am part of a wonderful research team at the University of Sydney. We are all disability researchers and have had an interest in disability research for very many years, and I introduced my colleagues, Gabriel Hindmarsh, Margaret Spencer and Nikki Wedgwood. We've worked together on Healthy Start, which some people in the audience will know was a funded project to help workers learn how best to support parents with intellectual disability. Margaret Spencer and I, Dr. Margaret Spencer and I, also worked with many of these fine parents you see here today on the Bumpy Road project, that the Wash House, which is where we are meeting you from, was the project lead organisation on that. We also pay respect to our partners, Women with Disability Australia, the Wash House, FAMS and People with Disability Australia. We were very fortunate to have such excellent, strong partners with a passion and a long and deep expertise in disability, parenting with disability, and in particular around the specific needs of women with intellectual disability. And you can see our fabulous group of experts here, our 6 research experts by lived experience, and also Rachel Tozer, who was parent facilitator on the project. Rachel has a huge amount of experience in facilitating groups for parents and particularly mothers with intellectual disability, and in many, many more things. And Rachel was the project coordinator of the Bumpy Road project. So you can learn about that project. We will share the link to it if you don't know about it. But it was a project that was co-designed to develop another website with resources for parents about navigating the New South Wales child protection system. So we are in New South Wales. I'm conscious that we have attendees from all over the country today. So yes, you will hear from our fabulous experts later. Okay, and we're just going to tell you a little bit about what we wanted to know. So we wanted to know, how well does the NDIS and the mainstream family support service system work together to help parents with intellectual disability and their children? That was our main question. Why we wanted to know this is because, well, it's a right of people with disability to have a family, and so we wanted to know how those rights are being supported in practice. You know, so under the convention, it is a right. Parents have the right to have children and to have to support with their parenting. It also is under the National Disability Strategy that recognises that parents and women with intellectual disability have a right to access the mainstream supports that they need in the community, including around parenting. But we do know that parents may not get the right support. There are access issues. They may not even want the support that's offered because they may experience judgment of workers. Services are often disconnected. These are system failures that can lead to child protection involvement. And sadly, once there's a legal matter, often the outcome for parents is not good, and for their children, and children placed in care. Now, we know recently in the latest National Framework for Protecting Australia's Children, families living with disability are now a priority group. So this is timely, this research. So here's our expert advisory group. Well, you've met the university research team, our partner representatives, and our co-researchers with lived experience. What we did together on this project is we met 6 times between September and May for our expert advisory group meetings. They were on Zoom. It was 2021, and so that meant a long lockdown, but we were really fortunate to have the great support of Rachel Tozer in reconnecting with parents who'd been part of the bumpy road or had wanted to be part of but couldn't be. And so those parents already had relationships with each other and relationships with the Wash House, and that helped. So that enabled us to sort of start off from a solid base with our group of co-researchers. We held these meetings, and we as the university researchers shared what we were learning along the way. And we had group reflections and breakout discussions, including we allowed extra time for our co-researchers to reflect and think and plan what they might like to say to the bigger group. We also had time together with the co-researchers to build their confidence to speak up and to share what they were hearing and share what their views are of what we were learning about this question, this research question around service coordination. So we did that for over a period of around about 6 or 8 months. What did we look at? Well, we did a rapid evidence review. That's where you go and look at all the research that's already been done. And as you can see, that just describes the process we did. We looked at a lot of things, a lot of different studies that were looking at service coordination or service integration or good working collaborative models specifically about parents with intellectual disability. And we found 6 studies that had been done that met some level of evidence base. So they were actually not just describing what happened, they were actually looking at evaluating and people's views of what had happened in those projects or in the collaboration. We did what's called desk-based document review. So we looked at the websites of the NDIS and of the Department of Community Services, which runs a program in New South Wales that's for family support services. It's called Targeted Early Intervention here. It'll have different names around the country, but it's a program that can provide extra support to families who need it. So we looked at those websites to understand what we could learn about support that was specifically about people with disability who were parents and people who were with intellectual disability who were parents. What were we able to find out? We also did Google searches to find more information on the internet about services that were specifically about parents with intellectual disability or that were about how they could access the NDIS and services. And we went back to those bumpy road interviews that were completed a couple of years ago, and we reread what the parents had told us and our notes and our recordings. We looked at that for references to the types of support the parents received and the types of support they needed. And here's what we found out. Well, from the evidence review, we found out that that what is important is family focused practice. So a focus not just on the parent, not just on the child, but on the parent and the child as together as part of a family, and indeed of other people in that family network, and what the support needs are there. So practitioners not just looking at parenting separately from other needs in that family, providing very practical skills training, and providing that over the longer term in recognition that parents with intellectual disability are going to need help as their children grow up. And the critical importance of having a key worker, someone who's trusted and consistent and who can act as a go-between amongst other services, health services, and a variety of other things that parents need to access, including things related to their children's development and education. What we found out about the NDIS was the NDIS does collect information about disability type, but it doesn't link that or collect information about participants who are also parents or have caregiver status. The Targeted Early Intervention Program also collects information about the disability type of people who use that program, and that's a family support program, but they don't collect whether those people also are and their caregiver status. So it was very difficult to disentangle and to find out anything from those programs from the information that's currently publicly available. And remember, we were only looking at what was publicly available. We know from reports that NDIS participants with intellectual disability who are caregivers express low satisfaction with the support they get. And I think this is an important message, because this speaks to the potential gap there for people in terms of getting their needs met with parenting, because the NDIS is focusing on the person with the disability, not the parent who has the disability. The NDIS, the recommendations from some of the reports we read about the NDIS was training and offering specialised child protection, specialised skills for child protection workers. So recognising that critical interconnection between those two systems and making formal the interagency collaborative mechanisms between the NDIS and state-based mainstream services. What the Bumpy Road parent participants said, well, they had a lot to say. But in terms of this, we got a clear message about how hard it was to use the NDIS to plan for support related to parenting needs. The portal was very difficult to use, and it was unclear what parents were entitled to. There was a real blurred sense of, well, actually, I don't know that I'm allowed to ask for that. Well, and other people saying you could, but no one explaining. And this is the NDIS, which is actually about explaining things to people with disabilities. So that's a big gap. It's hard to join mainstream parenting groups in the community or access mainstream parenting programs. They often are not accessible, or they don't feel accessible to parents with intellectual disability. And the importance of a disability advocate, especially when child protection is involved, because there are so many court and other documents that parents are expected to read. And as this says, you're often in the dark. You often feel in the dark. Okay, and I'm going to hand over now to our co-researchers to introduce 2 videos that were made.
Hi, my name is Shay Hutchins and I am one of the co-workers. We've made 4 videos. This one is about the best ways for us to learn parenting skills.
The best way to learn is by asking people and going to groups.
Also just watching a bunch of parenting videos online. So all the parenting that you can get, like just reading about parenting or watching parenting or how do you do discipline that.
With me, I went to play group, and with my first son, and then with my second I did courses and stuff, just so I know what to do. Because I was a first time mum, I didn't know what to do.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of first time parents, they just don't know how to deal with do they go to play groups? Do they do parenting courses? You did have your first, but then your second and your third and your fourth kid come along. It's just Do I have to do all this all over
I
again?
know, right?
Community, other mums with same needs that I have, family members, and doctors, counselling.
I was with the Wash House from 2012 until they closed the core group, the mums group.
I was in and out of courses throughout 2012 to 2018. So just in and out of parenting courses. And then joining the Wash House.
But with my second, I had the perinatal wellbeing course for mums. So you'll go there from 24 weeks pregnant till about 6 months old. It was good. It's a good course actually.
Yeah, I only did courses throughout all the pregnancies and just going to hospitals and just finding every groups I could find to help with parenting.
At the time with my kids, my support was New Pin and the Wash House.
My support was going to preschools with meeting other parents and going to Wash House and going to Life Start to meet other parents and go to outings to meet other parents, like going to clubs and all that.
Did they teach you how to be a good parent?
Yes.
I learned how to look after their needs. They showed me how to interact with the children. With New Pin, they taught me how to interact with them. They taught me try to get my kids into a routine, brighter futures. They didn't work well with me. I had a few Roche reports about me with them, so they didn't work with me. I tried to do the best that I could to be a parent, but that just went against me. They don't work with me, whereas some people, Brighter Futures does work with people. And
there's like a lot of people out there, they get help and someone else gets help, they won't help you.
yeah, it's double standard. I think it's definitely because I've got a
Yeah.
disability. People don't
Okay.
understand having a disability means that you're not dumb or anything. It's just that you've got a little bit of problems that you need help with, or you're a bit slower, mild intellectual.
Or you get picked on and that.
Yes. It's not that because we're bad parents, or it's just that we just don't know how
Or
to.
you get put down and someone says something nasty about you.
That's why we need supports like Drasillion or
Help
Brighter
on that.
Futures and all that. I think all the organisations should work together, because if they don't work together, you'll be just repeating yourself over and over again. So if you have that one organisation with all your information linked in together,
Yeah.
they can give you a better, bigger picture of support.
I've had a few services when my son was a baby. I had Brighter Futures that helped me, parenting groups through them. I went to a camp through them because I had postnatal depression as well, so they helped me through that. And then I went to a few other parenting groups at the Wash House. That's what having other mums with the same as what you have, that you didn't think there was other mums out there that did have the same thing.
I think you can see that's just a taste, and I hope everybody agrees that was well worth waiting for, and also showcases the quite extraordinary and amazing women we've worked with on this project. There's a the emotions are riding high in the background here, but they're very proud of themselves, and they've really done a great job. So there's 4 of those videos we'll be launching today that really we have other videos that are about how workers and services need to what they can do to do better with parents with intellectual disability. So yeah, we're very, very proud of our experts. Amazing group of women that they are, and amazing system changes, we hope. We believe this is the powerful message of co-design. It's not just about giving people a seat at the table and hearing what they have to say. It's actually letting them tell you how they want to say it, what the messages for them are, and giving them, then handing over that power and supporting them as academic researchers and as organisations that work with people with disability. Actually finding the way to just facilitate that is really what we hope is the take home for you. We'll ask Leonie Hazelton, who is one of our expert reference group members, to talk a little bit about her role on the project and her role at PWDA.
My name is Leonie Hazelton. I'm currently a project manager for an ILC project at People with Disability Australia. But prior to that, I was working as an advocate at PWDA. And my area of specific interest is around parents with disability who are involved in the care and protection system. So I did a lot of work with, I've worked with IDRS, with their care and protection team. And I've also worked with many parents in many stages of the care and protection process. My role as on the expert advisory group is as an advocate, but I'm also a mother and I also have vision impairment. So some of the sort of issues that the co-researchers talked about from a different perspective, I could certainly identify with. I think the biggest thing for an advocate working in the care and protection space is to make sure that the expectations of both sets of people that they're working with are managed. And it's a question of making sure that the expectations of the parents are managed, but also the expectations of the workers are managed, because 9 times out of 10, the expectations of the DCJ workers that are working with these parents are very, very, very low. They don't work on a strengths-based model of practice. They work very much on a, you've got, like, there's a lot of prejudice, prejudging. And so we as advocates need to manage those expectations by saying, well, hang on a minute, with the right supports, these parents are more than capable of being good enough parents, because let's face it, any one of you in the room that's a parent knows that you're never going to be perfect. And so we have to kind of manage those expectations of workers and basically say, well, look, let's look at what other solutions we can put into place before we go down the road of things like removals or anything like that. What supports can we put in place? What can you as DCJ do, as the state quote unquote child protection body do, to support the family as a whole and to keep this family together so that you're working in the best interests of everybody and within everybody's rights, will and preference. So that's where the first thing we have to do, like that's the first lot of expectations we have to manage. The second lot of expectations we have to manage is that of the parent. We might not get the fairy tale ending, but we will do our best to make sure that they are heard, that they are understood, that they are supported, that they are listened to. So that's sort of the 2 lots of expectation management. The other thing that advocates really needed to do in the child protection space is really walk beside these parents, because it's not an easy process. The deck is often heavily stacked against the parent. In favour of the legislation and all this sort of jazz. But not only that, you're coming into a situation with a lot of documents to read, a lot of things to do. And our role as advocates is to support the parents to make sure that you know, they understand the process fully. They understand what they're committing to, what they're signing, what the obligations are, what their rights are in this space, because let's face it, you know, there's not a lot of talk to parents in the care protection system about their rights. It's very much you have to do this. So our role as an advocate is to say, okay, you have the right to a support person to help you understand what you're signing. You do not have to sign anything until such time as you have had a chance to talk to a support person or someone that you trust, because at the end of the day, it's a big commitment that you're making. Our role as advocates is also to support people to instruct a solicitor. So we do not give the instructions. That is not our role. But we make sure that the person, that the parent in these proceedings understands what they're basically being asked to do. Also, we need to make sure that the solicitor is communicating with the client in a way that's understandable to a layperson, because we all know that solicitors do have a tendency to speak in legalese. And so as an advocate, it might be our role to say, look, you are using, like, the language that you're using is really high level. You're talking to a lady or a gentleman who is in a really, really sticky situation, and these concepts need to be brought down to a level that everybody can understand. So that is kind of the key, the really key work of advocates in the care and protection space. And also it's just to walk beside the mother, because, you know, we all know, like, the situation they're going through is pretty, you know, it's traumatic, it's stressful, it's horrible. And I think that, you know, we, as you know, as well as doing all of that expectations management and all that sort of stuff, we just need to be there to actually say, hey, look, you know, yes, the situation you're in is horrible, and but we can really support you and just be with you, because, like, you know, parents will get, you know, I've had parents in all sorts of situations, lots of tears, lots of anger, and we're there to hold that space for them as well, because, you know, they need to be validated. They need to sort of, you know, they need someone to actually sort of sit there and agree, yes, you know, pardon the expression, yes, the situation is shit, but, you know, there is someone in your corner that is here to support you. So that's what we've been doing in this project, and that in our advocacy work, in my advocacy work. But in this research project, my role has really kind of been to bring those kinds of angles to, you know, to the attention of the researchers, and help them formulate the tools and products that they've created with those sorts of things in mind. So I think that's probably, it sums up what we discussed yesterday, doesn't it, Susan?
That's perfect. Thank you, Leonie.
Fantastic.
If we can just share the slide deck again, because we want to also show some other amazing things we've got. So if we move on, this is the landing page of our. We also produced together with our co-researchers, very closely worked on 2 tip sheets, one for service providers and workers, and one for parents themselves. And this is the one for parents. Now, those who are experts in easy read, and we do have, we're fortunate to have Rachel Tozer, who is an easy read specialist. These are not easy read, they're easy English and plain English, simple English, but they were checked with our experts extensively to make sure not just the content and messages were right, but that the language was pitched to understanding as at least the people we worked with intellectual disability would understand. So you can see the key messages. Services not working together. They're not working for the parent, and they don't stick with you. Again, these are the same messages where we want to, I guess that the point of this is to share these messages in every single way. You might get the NDIS, but you don't get help to use it. You might have a family support worker, but they don't understand what your needs are as a person with disability, and they don't talk to each other. So if we just share the next page, so you'll see This is the magic yellow brick road that is the positive side of things. So what would make it easier? And these are tips for parents. You get the NDIS, then you ask a family or a friend to come to your plan meeting, and they can, you involve people that are part of your support network, part of your circle of support with making your plan work for you as a parent. You get an advocate. So many people with disability don't know that they have a right to an advocate. And we've heard from Leonie about the important role that advocates can play in supporting parents to stand up, to have their rights met, and to learn those skills for themselves, to learn how to advocate for themselves. And then you get the right help. Understanding how to use your plan, and you can use the local area coordinator or a support coordinator, making your plan work for you, and the services that you need match your goals. And let's face it, if you're a parent, your goals are never separate from being a parent. They are always your children are part of your goals for the future, and understanding that is a critical thing. Linking into parenting groups and supporting parents so that those groups that don't feel accessible to them, they don't feel safe, they don't feel warm and friendly, having somebody that can come with you to those groups so that you can actually develop some relationships and with other parents in the community, be part of the community. Thanks, Hannah. And this is the one for workers, bringing that understanding of what it's like to be a parent receiving services that don't work together. And you see, we use the motif of for both of them around the disjointed roads. There's lots of potholes. There's lots of, confusing messages. This is the right way. This is the right way. No, go back. Again, understanding the problems with mainstream services and the fact that they aren't accessible. And what does that mean? Because oftentimes mainstream services may think they're accessible. They may not understand these barriers that are not just, they may not be obvious to them. And again, I think talking to people who are service users is a great way to overcome that. I'm just conscious of time. No, we're looking good. So understanding how to make your service accessible, making sure your workers know what intellectual disability is and how it affects parenting and how it affects learning, and then understanding and talking to the person about their particular learning styles and needs, and understanding why they might be reticent or reluctant to use your service, and trying to find ways to overcome those sorts of feelings by making sure your service is welcoming, and it makes the necessary adjustments so that parents do feel like it's a service for them as well. And then the NDIS really needs to do some work on making sure that that people don't actually have that first hurdle of not even being able to use the portal, not knowing how to manage your budget, not knowing that you actually could have somebody else do it for you. There's a lot of complex tasks in being an NDIS participant, and this is a critical, I think we've talked in our group, in our expert reference group, about some of those skills that are expected of people with intellectual disability, understanding budgeting and finance, understanding how to plan and coordinate services. These are high order skills, and parents with intellectual disability will need help to gain those skills. Thanks, Hannah. And these are the things, the key messages about how to get on the integrated support freeway, what services can do, and how they can work together better for parents, and what workers themselves can do to really be honest and open about any problems, and be sensitive, slow down, explain things clearly, and celebrate successes. That's an important message from our parents too, is that, often there's a lot of negativity, and it's important to focus on the positives what parents have achieved, even if they don't have children living with them. It's about the quality of their relationships with their children and their other supports. So the next steps, I think we all agreed, advocacy, and really doing some work to make sure that this group of people with disability understand their right to an advocate, and that workers understand the importance of of offering an advocate and of supporting parents to have an advocate, to connect with an advocate, especially if child protection are involved. If this is critical, and it really needs to be taken up as an urgent matter, that parents get access to this, and that workers and services make sure that they include information about advocacy. Definitely we need better information. One of the things that was disappointing about this study is how little we could retrieve from publicly available information. And we brought back what we could to our expert reference group, but there were a lot of gaps in what we could actually find out from the NDIS and from Targeted Early Intervention program in New South Wales, which is a new program, and there are some teething problems with the data they're collecting. We understand that, but really we hope there will be improvements in that, and understanding that better working together results in sort of it's essential for preventative and family focused support. Thanks, Hannah. And I think we're on time to now ask any questions. And I can't see anybody, but I think we had people from our panel. Marg and Nikki, we're going to field some questions over, and I'm sure they're going to be questions for our co-researchers who are all here with me.
First of all, I just want to say congratulations to the co-researchers for doing such a wonderful job. I think one thing that this project has shown me, as with the bumpy road, is that for those that doubt your capacity to have insight into what your situations are, have not listened to you. And when people truly listen to you and give you that opportunity to speak, you can say very loudly what you need. So congratulations. I'm really interested in those, I know there's some attendees who are on and who work in family support services. And I just wondered if, and I don't mean to call you out, Janice, but I was just wondering whether anyone any of the attendees would like to just talk about this sort of integration and some of the issues with particularly the TEI and how that is working with the NDIS.
We've already got a question in the Q&A. While should we go ahead with that while?
Yes, thank you, Nikki. Could we, please, that'd be great.
Yeah, so this is a question for the co-researchers. Did you have difficulties with childcare when you were working on the research project? That's a curly one.
No.
No, no, no.
I think because of the age of your children now would be the issue. Everybody had older children.
And actually, the other thing to remember is we only had one opportunity to come together in person, which is when we did the videos at the University of Sydney for a day. Otherwise, it was Zoom. So I know we did it during the day so that parents who had children at school, it didn't interfere with their with that, and we were worked around pick up and drop off times as well.
There's also a question in the chat for the parents.
Yeah, so Linda's asking, could I please ask parents what they found was the most important thing that workers could do when working with them?
Be understanding.
Listening.
Talk clearly.
Talk clearly, be understanding,
Listening.
and listen. Listen. So that's the two things, isn't it? Really listening as well as being clear in what you express, what you're talking and communicating.
Susan, we've got another question.
Oh.
Actually, we've got two other questions. There's one that says, this is a question for the co-researchers. Did you find your main supports around parenting came from family or community or from services?
Mine was through family and friends.
Mine was through services.
Mine was both.
Both? And then
Family, friends, services, I think. Yeah.
I didn't have much at all, actually, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Oh, except for the wash house.
yeah, actually, a lot of in fact, I think all of our parents,
the wash
Yeah.
house.
all of our co-researchers connected through the wash house, and Rachel was the, as I said, was the coordinator of a fantastic program called Parenting Core Family Support, which doesn't exist anymore, and was a really unique project and program for parents with intellectual disability. You're part of the group. Yeah. And Lisa wants it back again. So
Yes. I think we all want it back again.
yeah. So I think that's an important message is it's fine to make mainstream services accessible. It's important that mainstream services are accessible, but actually sometimes parents want to connect with other parents like them. And so so it's important that there are also specialist disability and parenting services, and these are in short supply, I would say, all over the country. You know, again, something that under the National Disability Strategy could be a priority area to look at. Are there any other questions?
We've got an anonymous attendee asking, what is the biggest challenge you face as a parent with a disability?
Discrimination.
Discrimination.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Was that unanimous then?
Can I make a comment as well? I think another issue is the judgment that parents with disability face. You know, oh, you shouldn't be a parent because you've got X. It's like, well, you're, as I said in the reflection earlier, a person who doesn't know you from a bar of soap, has literally met you for 30 seconds, doesn't know your strengths, doesn't know your, you know, any areas of improvement that you have and what you're actually doing to address them. It's the prejudice. And I think it's a societal, like a structural prejudice as well, that, you know, there's not that openness to, like in mainstream society, to parents not being, you know, mum and dad, straight white families kind of thing.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, thank you, Leonie. And I know you're also a parent with a disability, so
Yes.
we appreciate. And Gwyneth, I think Gwyneth had raised her hand. Gwyneth, did you want to add something? While we wait for Gwyneth to maybe, I don't know if we are.
Yeah, just before.
Oh, you have to type, Gwyneth. I think we don't have, the webinar doesn't have facility. But we did have somebody ask where you can get the tip sheets. And that was the next thing I was going to tell you, because we are launching the website and it will have the tip sheets there. Everybody who has registered to attend today, so even people who weren't able to attend, will get the recording and will get the tip sheets and the link to the website as well. So we want it to be out there. We want it to be shared as widely as you possibly can. You know, this group of parents are pretty expert in making websites, but I think even they outdid themselves on this one, and it's been definitely a collaborative effort. And Pay's got another question here. I can't read that. Can somebody?
Yeah.
So the question was, do the
Susan-
parents have a few names or a list
sorry.
of groups or courses that they found particularly beneficial?
Thanks, Pay. Sorry, who was that coming on now?
That was
That was Gwyneth, because
Hi, Gwyneth.
Kay very kindly unmuted me. Look, I'll be very quick. It's not so much a question. I absolutely support the parents, you know, saying that being together, talking with each other is so critical. And I noticed that you referred to that as sort of mainstream services, maybe providing specialist support. I sort of disagree. Like, all parents come together, you know, they might meet for coffee, or they might be a mother's group from antenatal services or pregnancy services, and they keep up their friendships. but sometimes parents with intellectual disability can be rather isolated. So I don't think we should think of that as specialist. I think we should think about it as that's the job of mainstream services, to actually provide opportunities for people who may be very isolated and not know other parents with intellectual disability to come together in a safe and supported environment to share their experiences of being mums or dads. So
I think
I'd really like us to drop specialised language if that's okay.
Yeah, I agree, Gwyneth. I think there's probably more than one way to skin a cat too. And our parents who are on also get the NDIS, and it would be great if the NDIS could be used to support that. So to support parents to come together, because we often find that mainstream services are short term. So including those short-term parenting support groups when you first have a baby, and that maybe they aren't lasting long enough for some parents with intellectual disability to connect with others. Yeah.
Susan, sorry, Susan, there's a couple of Janice has responded to my initial question that I asked at the beginning regarding the state-run family support services in the NDIS, and makes a very good point in the chat room of saying it would be great if workers, and I take it she means the family support workers, could access training on how to support parents with utilising their plans. So that raises something really interesting in terms of also, sort of, how do you make the most of an NDIS plan? So for state-funded services to know how to do that. So I thought that was a really good point, and one that I think we should take up in our report. So thank you, Janice. There was another comment by that's been made by Rosemary Robinson, and refers to about women with intellectual disabilities as vulnerable to sexual exploitation, manipulation, etc. And they may have parenting thrust upon them, rather than making an active choice in many cases, and yet to be motivated to be a good mother. I think that's a really, thank you, Rosemary. I think that there's that's sort of quite a sort of a debatable point and contested point too. I think many mothers with many people come to motherhood through different circumstances, and either by it being something that just happens. I think the issue is of agency, that often mothers with intellectual disability are not seen as having agency. And I think what the co-researchers, and I don't want to speak on your behalf, co-researchers, but what they have taught me is very much that if we deeply listen, we actually understand that women with intellectual disabilities are no different from ourselves in terms of what they want, and that's to be the best mothers they can, no matter what the circumstances that led them to become mothers. So, yeah.
Well put, Mark. We also had Kylie from Positive Powerful Parents in Victoria talking about a new group that is going to be coming in New South Wales. And stay tuned. Yes, we're very excited about this announcement, and I think it will fill a very big gap. Positive Powerful Parents in Victoria, you can look them up. They are an amazing force of parents with intellectual disability who are advocates and supporters and for each other and for the rights of parents with intellectual disability. And yeah, it will be.
There's another question, just a statement from Amanda here in the Q&A about how could child protection agencies better balance the child safety and supporting parents with disability learn new skills in a way that suits their needs. Very much high priority, I think, Amanda. One of the things that Susan and I have been working on, and it's a piece of research we launched last week, a resource, but the notion of thinking about, for all all workers, how do we actually think about being disability informed practitioners? We think about that in terms of being culturally safe practitioners. We think about it in terms of being trauma-informed practitioners. But what we're putting out there is that everybody needs to be disability-informed practitioners, and that's something that that we're promoting. That's what we would say in terms of in the child protection space, and at all primary, secondary, and tertiary levels of child protection, that we need to think about how are we disability informed practitioners, because we all have different abilities.
Absolutely. And we will share that resource on the Supporting the Woman, Supporting the Mother website as well. And actually on that note, and you will be getting the link to the website, but we welcome anybody who would like to share something that's relevant to parents with intellectual disability, groups you know of, and so on. We want this to be a resource that parents can use into the future. And so, this is not the end for us. It's unfortunately the end of this project, but we intend to keep working together to, I suppose, bring awareness of the need for improved kind of practice in this area, and support for workers who want to do disability informed practice. So thank you so much, everybody. I'm conscious we've gone to the hour. Really appreciate you joining us, and sorry about those technical hitches, but yeah, it's been wonderful having you. There's our information if you want to join the mailing list for the Research Centre for Children and Families. Thanks so much. Bye for now.